Hi everyone. I wanted to get on here and answer all the questions I was asked. I'm always asked a lot of questions around what is intuitive, what is an intuitive coach, what is an intuitive reading. And so I wanted to come on and answer the questions that I got. So, and if you have questions while we're on here, type them in the chat. I think I can see that somewhere. Here, let me, I'm not going to try to figure it out. Yeah, if you have questions, type them in. I think I'll be able to see them. Okay. So the first question I got is, how do you know when you've tapped into your intuition? So the answer, I didn't read the questions, by the way, ahead of time. So I'm just going on the fly with this. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. So how do you know when you've tapped into your intuition? So this is not something, first of all, everyone has an intuition. Okay, everybody has access to what I have access to. I have just done all the work to clear my channel so that I have really clear direct access to mine. So what I did to gain that was practice. So we all know that you've made decisions, you've had gut feelings on something. If somebody asks you to do something and your instinct is saying, no, I don't want to do that, or maybe, yes, I'm really excited about doing that. When we follow those instincts, we look at the evidence behind them. So if you go to a party that you didn't necessarily really want to go to, but maybe you felt like you feared missing out, or you just weren't really feeling like being social even. When you go to that party and you're observing, I'm not interested in being here, it's looking at that evidence like, okay, I should have listened to that instinctive response, right? Whether the evidence supports your decision or shows you that you should have made a different decision, it's still evidence. So learning how to hear your intuition, I say hear, because it is it's an immediate sensation. And what often happens is we get an immediate instinct or gut reaction for something, and then what happens is our mind comes in and wants to scare us and, gives us all but what if this happened and what if that happened? And it might try to change that decision. Like let's say you're in a relationship that you're not really into anymore and your instinct is telling you to leave that relationship. But maybe there's a part of you that's afraid of being alone or is afraid of making the wrong decision or letting somebody go that, maybe you're being too hard on them, right? So it's really about learning how to trust your intuition, and it takes practice. So because I've done that for so long, to get back to the question, because I've done that for so long, I've just learned to distinguish between what that feels like. And I have a very clear distinction between what is my intuition or heart and what is my ego or mind. So it's practice. I guess that's the best way for me to tell you that. Also, your intuition, it's like a knowing. Sometimes you don't have explanations for it. Sometimes it's, like you'll feel something, but you're not really sure why. It's something to listen to when you sense that. It also, I will say that you also have access to it when you're in a neutral, like non-emotional state. So if you're in a really heightened emotional state, you cannot access your intuition from that place. So I guess best way to put it is practice, learning what it sounds, feels like, and then learning to trust that, taking action and building that trust cycle with yourself and learning what that feels like. It comes over time. Okay, how do you strengthen your intuition? So this would be very similarly. Your intuition wants to be heard. It wants to know that you take it seriously and that you care about what it has to say. So when you decide to have that instinct and trust it, you build a relationship. It is like building a muscle, building a relationship with your intuition, like letting yourself know that you trust yourself, you trust the guidance that you're receiving. So I would say, how do you strengthen it? You take action once you get the intuitive hit. How do you know when you're accidentally in someone else's intuition? So this is a cool question. So it's all energy. It really is. Once you're connected with yourself, you get a really good sense of your own energy. And so when you connect to someone else's intuition, so a lot of empaths feel this, right? They feel, this is something that's misunderstood with empaths, actually. I remember I used to get pumped up, like to go out with friends, and I would walk into a place and immediately like my mood would change, and I could never understand, like, why can't this be like this beautiful night that I thought it was going to be? And it was really because I believe I was taking on energy from people there, right? As an empath, I didn't really understand how to put boundaries around and protect myself. So as you build a relationship with your own intuition, you learn how to feel it, how it feels naturally for you. And so when someone else's energy is coming in, you can sense the difference between the two, if that makes sense. I've actually done readings for people where a big question that I get a lot is, can you connect with spirit? And when I first started doing this, I was afraid to do that or try to do it. And some people have that natural ability, like they grew up connecting with spirits, and it was their intuitive was so strong, their intuitive nature was so strong that it wasn't really a choice for them. So with me, what happened was I was doing a reading actually, and I had messages start coming in from a different energy. And I knew, like, it's hard to explain. I just knew it was another energy. I could sense the difference of feeling. I've connected with spirits now in my readings with clients. But the point is that as you get really comfortable with what your own intuition feels like and sounds like, it's easier to distinguish between other energies. Even like the words, like if I connect in with a client, the words that I get messages from, the words are maybe words that I wouldn't normally use, let's say, for example. It's a trust. It's still a lot of trust and practice building the process. Let me see. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say about that. No, we'll just keep going. How does it work? So in my sessions, what I do is I have a disclaimer that I read because I have to, as not being a trained medical practitioner, I have to give a disclaimer that any messages that come through have to be interpreted and utilized at your own discretion, because you really have to be responsible for what comes through and you taking action on it. So that's the disclaimer that I do. Once I do that, I set the space. I clear the space. I clear any ego from the space, and I make it really safe and like a locked down container, if you will, putting those boundaries up so that I'm only inviting in our energies to connect, basically. And so once I do that, we just start. So I invite you to ask me a question. And usually the questions are open-ended because I can give yes/no responses, but a lot of people ask me things like, I've worked with athletes, for example, what's holding me back from taking my performance to the next level? Or what is creating this really frustrating dynamic between myself and my partner? Why do I keep attracting men into my life that leave me? Why does money scare me so much? What's underneath my health issues? I keep having health issue after health issue. What's underneath that? So I get to connect to my client and become that channel for them and their intuition, because they're likely so blocked and just emotional, like trapped with emotional blocks and limiting beliefs that they've built up over life, that they've been conditioned to over time, that they struggle accessing their own intuition. A lot of times too, I work with people who are very intuitive, but they don't trust themselves. So oftentimes the messages that I give them can really affirm what's been coming through for them and just let them know that, okay, someone else feels this too. So that's what we do. You ask a question, and we just start digging into it and unraveling it and getting to the root of it, and then inviting the truth in so that we can heal that part of you. It's all subconscious, so it's very progressive. It's very much like it's different than us having a conscious conversation. So I'm also a certified life coach, and when I have discussions with my clients around what do you think is getting in your way? Like, where are you feeling the resistance? That's a very different conversation than me just tuning in and telling you, here's what's blocking you, right? It can help you move through things so much faster. And it's magical, like, honestly. I get into rooms with people and they're like, how did you know that? You don't know a thing about me. And how did you know those things, And when you're working with an intuitive coach, like, something to be aware of is that when you get an intuitive message, if somebody says something to you and you're like, yes, like, I feel that, like, so much of that resonates with me, that is your intuition, your spirit. It's like our spirits speaking to each other. We are connecting at that point on a soul level. And I know, like, I'm sure that this sounds very woo to a lot of people, but honestly, like, it's magical. It really is. It's a space to get you out of your head and into your body, into your heart, into that truth guidance, as opposed to this fear-based guidance in your mind, if that makes sense. So let me see what the next question was. When you clear a blockage in someone, what are the next steps to take that and move forward with it? So when I clear blockages, again, it's all subconscious work. So I am actually doing the healing for you. If, a lot of times people come to me. So I've done a lot of clearing. I've spent a lot of time clearing what has come up for me. Whether it's on a day-to-day basis, like what's the biggest limiting belief in my subconscious right now for me to clear, or the other day I shared, or a couple weeks ago, I shared a process that I used to clear fears. I was when all of this stuff came up, and I had some fears surface. So I went through my process of clearing those fears. Whatever it looks like, I've done a lot of it. I've done, clearing societal pillars that we've all taken on and been conditioned towards. I've also cleared all of the years of my life. So going through literally, like, from the time I was conceived to now, what are all the limiting beliefs that were created in my life? I've cleared all of those years. So I've done a ton of clearing. And so if you do a session with me, we're likely just scratching the surface of it. So even though we've cleared a part of that wound, there's still work to do. So what happens is, like, once I've done my clearing for you, once I've done that healing for you, when it comes up again, if it comes up again, then your job is to just be really aware of it coming up and just saying, okay, like, what's here for me? And being really curious, like, not judging yourself for it coming up, I'm sure you can understand that if I do one healing for you, it's not just going to fix you. People don't come to me to be fixed, or they shouldn't be coming to me to be fixed, right? They're coming to me to open up and start dissecting the patterns that have been happening in their life. So your job moving forward from it is really to, like I said, just stay hyper aware of what's happening and allow yourself to be really curious about, like, what's the next level here. We cleared one level with Kristen, so let's go in deeper ourselves. When I do full sessions with people too, we can clear a lot of stuff. So that would be another way to do it, is to obviously work with me, and let me do that for you. But the other thing I'll say about that is, the cool thing about it is that once we bring something up, you can't unlearn it. It's there. Now you have a choice whether you keep implementing that and using that in your life, right? That becomes down to you. Now it's about free will versus truth, because now you know the truth. So it's just about noticing how that pattern, evolves, really, because we've cleared a piece of it, let's say. All right, next question. What is the difference between an intuitive coach and a life coach? So I have 2 certifications. My first one is in life coaching, and the second one is in intuitive coaching. A life coach is someone who, I will say, so I've done therapy, I've done coaching, and now I've done the intuition work. With therapy, therapy is a great space to just be held where you are. I look at coaching as more progressive. So really, if you're looking for somebody to just call you out on your stuff and really push you beyond levels that you've never pushed yourself, that is when you hire a coach. When some person who's not going to, say, it's okay, you don't have to look at that right now. They're really going to push you beyond your comfort zone. That's why you hire a coach, because you want to up level in your life. You're sick and tired of the same patterns, your life being the way that it is. A coach is a way to go. It's much more progressive than therapy. My life drastically changed when I started getting into coaching versus being in therapy for years. But I say that from a space of, when I was in therapy, like, that's what was right for me at the time, and when I found coaching, that was right for me in that moment. So you really have to tune in and listen to, what is your gut telling you? Where do I want my space to be? So that's the coaching piece. Now, on the intuitive level, intuitives are really, like I explained earlier, able to connect to you and tell you the things that you're not seeing yourself because you have so much blocked. So we are these clear channels. We've done the work, or have leaned into our gifts enough, for the people who've been intuitives their whole lives, to really clear our channels and be that messenger for someone else. So as an intuitive life coach, now I get to combine those things. So not only can I clear these subconscious limiting beliefs that have built up inside of you and masked you from your true self, now I can also coach you through on a conscious level as well. Like, here are some tools to keep that going. And it's not just about the clearing. It becomes more than that. So here are the tools to use. Let's walk through the resistance together. I can have, a more laid back conversation with you, I would say, on that, even though it's still more progressive, on the more progressive level. The intuitive stuff is even more progressive than that. Like, you can clear in a single session with me, you can clear a ton of wounds. It's amazing. I can't express it enough. Let's see. What's your process in accessing your intuition? So I think I talked about this a little bit before, but when I started, this is about getting quiet with yourself. Something that helped me a lot was meditation. So I started meditating to just calm myself, and just be present and be in a quiet, calm, peaceful space. And over time, as I continued to train my mind that we're not in thinking mode here, we're in meditation mode, that I was able to be in that space, like just be present in my body and be really grounded in just being with me and feeling really safe and comfortable in that. Over time, as I trained myself to be in that space, that's when I was able to really connect with my intuition. Hey, Pam, connect with my intuition and hear what it has to say, knowing that my mind is silent at that point. So that's something that really helped me start being able to hear and acknowledge. And when I had things come through, like, honestly, the first way that it sort of started with me was I was doing guided meditations that asked questions. And so I would reflect on these, like just allow answers to come to me instantly, when I'm in a really present, grounded space. That's when I started accessing it. And what happened for me personally, my personal journey, is that over time, like I would just get these random messages sort of coming through, even when I wasn't in meditation. So it just started evolving. I started seeing visuals of like myself and what's possible in my life. I started seeing some of those come to life, like come true for me. And so in my intuitive training, what that taught me was how to do that intentionally. But I really feel like had I continued on the path that I was in, like from a meditation standpoint, I would have been able to build that intentional connection. I probably would have started doing it in meditation and being really grounded, but that's what it's all about. Being in this really grounded space, asking yourself what you want to know and listening for the answers. It's not complex. It's really as simple as it is. Because we're so used to thinking, it can be challenging sometimes because we notice we're immediately going to a thinking space. So what if you practice this, what if you just allowed yourself to go to the next answer? Like just keep allowing the answers to flow until you feel like you're not thinking about it anymore. So maybe try that. And the last question I have here is, how do you know it's your intuition versus your mind? Again, this is all practice and building that trust and knowing that your mind is very fear-based and your intuition is in love. So the messages that come through from an intuitive standpoint, even if they're hard to hear, when you know that they're true, then there's something to look at there. There's something to acknowledge. And, it's not all rainbows and butterflies with my intuition. Sometimes I'm getting messages to do things that make me very uncomfortable, but I know that it's an invitation. It's an invitation because I'm ready to hear them. I'm ready to go to the next level. When you get those messages, especially at that point, when you get messages that you're ready to move on, you're ready to do something that makes you uncomfortable, that's not your mind. I can tell you that with certainty, that is not your mind. Because your mind wants to keep you safe. Your mind wants to keep you exactly where you are in your comfort zone, not challenging you to be more. So try that on for size as you're getting these messages, because you all are. You're all getting intuitive messages. It's just whether or not you choose to listen to them. So I don't think I saw any questions come through. Let me just scan through. Any more questions? That was a lot of questions. No, okay. All right. So if you have anything else that comes up or you're curious about other things, please ask them. This is good because it helps me understand where your curiosities are and, help bridge that gap. Take care.